I think the Affordable Care Act is an initial first step, good first step. It's flawed. It's flawed from a patient perspective because of the rising out-of-pocket expenses.
I had pretty good insurance. I mean, I'm blessed in that way. But it still cost us 6 figures to get through this experience.
For the first time in all my years and all my wife's years, this year we get to file our medical on our taxes because we have so much out-of-pocket expenses.
Even with decent insurance, which I believe I have, and I'm grateful for it, there's still so much out of pocket.
Emergency room visits, doctor offices, doctor visits not covered by insurance.
They were sending me bill after bill. I mean, I had stacks and stacks of bills.
When you go to a specialist, you know, it's $50 to $75.
When you have medical issues, it's not just the one medical issue, but it affects your work schedule, having to have arranged transportation. It's a lot of hassle.
Radiation was $27,000 a month, and it goes on and on. It's just, you know, they call cancer a catastrophic disease, and rightly so, because it is a catastrophe in your pocket, in your life, in all ways.
Knowing that I didn't have unlimited funds, knowing that I was digging a hole between not working and the additional costs for my family weighed on me tremendously. And thinking that maybe, depending on how long it continued and depending on what the amounts were, that I would saddle our family with hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential debt in order for just me to get the benefit, was a very hard decision.
They should pay something, but they shouldn't go bankrupt and put their family in long-term financial distress in combating a life-threatening disease.
You have patients who need ongoing chronic care, attention, support, physician interaction, who are making decisions to not comply or making treatment decisions because of their out-of-pocket expenses. I've said before that it's the next crisis in cancer care. It is the crisis in cancer care.
Because of the out-of-pocket expenses being so much, we've been unable to do a lot of things that we would like to have done. We used to go out to movie and dinner once a week. Now, if we do it once every 2 months, we're lucky.
For someone in my situation who is not a traditional student, who's age 34, going back to school, not working, and now with a cancer diagnosis, it's a matter of, well, should I go back to school? Or do I need to start paying my medical bills and work and just go back to teaching?
You know, okay, what doctor can I put off seeing because I don't have that $75 copay, and which doctor's more important? But then you sit down and realize they're all important. You know, so how do you distinguish between the ones that you should see?
I started a quest to find holistic approaches to my healing because I'm broken in a lot of ways, and there is holistic healing out there, but it's not covered by insurance, and it's very expensive.
And then each time I go to the doctor, some doctors say, well, if you're a Medicare patient, I don't take you. But then I said, I'm a Blue Cross. You used to take my Blue Cross. Said, well, you are primary, so I can't take you primary Medicare care. So I have to pay out of my pocket, or I have to give up some doctors because of that.
When I had the colostomy, I could only get 30 bags a month, which left me 1 bag a day. On the good months, it had 30 days. On the bad days, on the bad months, it had 31 days. I either had to make a bag last more than 1 day, or I had to buy extras, and those cost about $50 for a box of 10.
When somebody's sick and you're trying to focus on healing, the last thing you want to worry about is, oh my God, how am I going to pay this? Who's going to help me?
We know that when there's a financial barrier, people tend to put off prevention sort of at the top of the list. Doesn't seem urgent.
There's a problem with cancer patients who have serious illnesses and serious conditions and comorbid conditions when they're faced with a decision whether to spend $6,000 plus every year for the next 3 or 4 years of their chronic condition, and they don't have the existing resources.
Take a look at the whole patient. You know, if you're a lawmaker, don't look at just one little part, because the truth is, it's a person's life you're dealing with, and every single part will either help cure it or not help. And why would you deny help to someone who's literally fighting for their life? Makes no sense.
The waiting period was so long. Like one time I had an oncologist appointment. It was at 10 a.m. I didn't get seen until like 1 o'clock. So to sit there for hours and hours, and I was just looking at some of these patients that were way worse than I was, that had to sit there, and I thought, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't have to sit for hours and hours when your appointment's at 10 o'clock.
As we move on, payment reform models are not just about paying a provider. It's about enabling a patient to make decisions that are not purely financially based.
What I found is that I've fallen into the trap that a lot of people have fallen into, in that they don't get prescriptions filled, only take certain medications like once every other day instead of every day.
I did choose a doctor in Los Angeles because it wasn't offered in my hometown. What that meant to me was that I had to travel 3 hours to the hospital, needing to find a place to stay.
There were times when I probably didn't go for that PET scan when I was supposed to right away because the cost.
People are making decisions like consumers for in a situation where the stakes, the clinical stakes, and the potential suffering of patients is substantial.
I actually declined to go through chemo this time. And it wasn't the only reason, but part of the reason was financial, because it would have been, bam, another $9 grand. I'm self-employed, sole providing, and I didn't have $18,000 just sitting around to pay for treatment.
Some medications I could take to improve my quality of life, I just don't take because of the expense. I would say that right now I have quit taking medication that out of pocket saves me $500 a month.
I had a string of 3 patients during the month of January. 2 of them ended up electing not to have therapy. It was striking. It was striking.
When you have to make a decision whether you're going to have a drug or you're going to eat, it's horrendous, and that shouldn't even be on the table.
Cancer is a very consuming disease for people in terms of getting treatment, in terms of making them confront big questions in their lives. And they should be focusing on getting the best care and spending time with their family and not having to go in and out just because it's more remunerative for a doctor or a hospital. This seems to me a conflict that we can all agree should be solved.
Even I starve to death, I will not let go of my insurance. That's my life.